there can't be another world war because the idea that nuclear weapons are going to be deployed in any wartime scenario seems to me so incomprehensible that I can't picture it happening. And I know that the world has come close a couple of times. I mean, the Bay of the Cuban Missile Crisis, which arose out of Russia's trying to place medium-range missiles or short-range missiles in Cuba that could reach the United States, and there was a very tense time. I guess what couple of years before I was born, 62, I think that was. So there was Cuban Missile Crisis, a couple other times where the world has come close, but there's just no way that there's going to be a third world war that is based upon any kind of weapons of mass destruction, in my opinion. If there is to be a third world war, and I don't even want to guess what the odds of this happening are, but if there is to be a third world war, it will be a war between Islam and the West, and it will be fought in Europe, and it will be fought in urban guerrilla-style warfare. You know, in the same way that a lot of the wars or a lot of the combat in Iraq occurred in urban guerrilla-style warfare, and the American military is not particularly well suited for that, which is why they basically lost in Iraq. And you could argue now that the Taliban is retaking huge amounts of Afghanistan, they lost in Afghanistan as well. The history of Western warfare is the history of people lining up nicely in uniforms and hurling whatever they can at each other, whether it's the bows and arrows of Agincourt to the shells of World War I to the bombs of the Second World War. In general, and this is with the exception of some civilian bombings, but in general, it's people lining up in nice uniforms and fighting each other in a, quote, civilized fashion. And nobody can beat the West in those kinds of wars, of course, right? Because the West has overwhelming firepower, ridiculously powerful technology, and all that. And so everybody who wants to fight the West is fully aware of that. Fully aware that you cannot beat the West in conventional warfare. So that's why the West's overwhelming superiority in weapons of mass destruction, and I don't just mean nuclear weapons, or conventional weaponry. The West's overwhelming superiority in conventional weaponry has meant that conventional weaponry is useless in a war because nobody's going to try and fight it. I mean, there's no... The Islamic State is not going to try and take some American aircraft carrier with a canoe and harsh words, right? I mean, and so America's multi-trillion-dollar and the West's multi-trillion-dollar investment in conventional warfare has rendered conventional warfare obsolete. Can't win, won't try. Only way to win that game is not to play. And so when Osama bin Laden wanted to hurt the West, what could he do? Well, he couldn't go and invade America because it's a pretty big ocean. I think they can see you coming. Plus, Desert Warrior is not that great on oceans. So what did Osama bin Laden do when he wanted to hurt America? Well, he attacked America using America's own planes, which then did exactly what he wanted to do, which was to draw American troops into the Middle East, where they could wage a war of attrition and wreck the American economy and will to fight. I mean, America just went lockstep into that dance, which they'd actually taught Osama bin Laden in Afghanistan in the 1980s when he used those same tactics against Russia. And so America has this massive, massive military, which was completely useless, worse than useless, on 9/11. They couldn't even get their aircraft scrambled in time to do anything useful. And it was completely useless in Iraq in terms of securing America's long-term gains and bringing peace and order and democracy to the Middle East. So everything that America has and everything that Europe has is just going to be bypassed. Because, defense is a government program, which means that it's there to serve the interests of the elites who can profit from it rather than actually do its job and defend the people. So if there is to be a third world war, it will arise, I believe, in the way that ISIS and other very radical groups want it to arise, which is they're going to get a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of Muslims into Europe, and then they claim this year they're going to start creating a huge number of terrorist attacks, which is going to cause a crackdown on Muslims within